Breaking news. The Philadelphia Eagles backstage is on fire, and you need to know everything that's going down. The team is making moves, big decisions are on the table, and the road to another Super Bowl is starting to take shape right now. The excitement is real, the fans are buzzing, and every detail could be crucial for the future of our team. But before I spill everything I've found out in the last few hours, I want to know, do you believe this roster has what it takes to fly high and bring glory back to Philly? Then show your passion and drop it in the comments. Go Birds! Now buckle up, because what comes next will get you even more fired up. Let's get straight to it. The battle for roster spots and starting jobs is heating up for the Eagles as they head into their second preseason matchup against the Cleveland Browns. All eyes are on the secondary, where Kelee Ringo is under immense pressure after a rough outing against Jamar Chase in the opener. Yes, Chase is one of the best in the league, but giving up 4 catches on 4 targets for 79 yards and a touchdown in just 16 snaps is a stat line that no young corner wants on his resume. Adoree Jackson wasn't much better, allowing 4 receptions for 45 yards on 5 targets. The problem here is that Vic Fangio's defense is designed around trust in coverage, and if neither Ringo nor Jackson can handle top-tier receivers, then it opens the door for Jacorian Bennett, who was just acquired via trade from the Raiders. Despite battling injuries early in his career, Bennett has shown he can compete with quality receivers, and Fangio has already made it clear he'll have every opportunity to win that job. Saturday could be his chance to prove he belongs opposite Quinyon Mitchell. That cornerback competition isn't the only positional fight worth tracking. The edge rusher depth battle has been just as fierce. Behind Nolan Smith and Jix Hunt, the Eagles need a reliable third option, and right now it's a dead heat between Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari. Both are undersized but explosive off the edge, and Fangio himself admitted the competition is neck and neck. These snaps matter because the Eagles rotate heavily up front, and whoever wins that job will see real playing time. Ojulari has mostly been running with the twos, while Uche has flashed at moments. This will be one of the most important evaluations of the preseason because Philadelphia invested in both as cost-controlled veterans who could pay huge dividends. On the offensive line, things are just as unsettled. With Landon Dickerson sidelined by a meniscus procedure, Brett Toth has stepped into the first-team left guard role. He has always been valued for his versatility, but there are doubts about whether he's the best fit at guard. Jeff Stoutland trusts him, but if Toth struggles, options like sliding Tyler Steen over from right guard or even giving a rookie a shot at the spot could be on the table, depending on how long Dickerson
takes to recover. The Eagles may even consider an external move to shore up the interior. Week 2 of the preseason will give coaches another close look at whether Toth can handle starting duties or if adjustments are needed before the season opener against Dallas. At linebacker, first-round pick Jihad Campbell is slowly being unleashed. He didn't start against the Bengals as the medical staff wanted to monitor his workload, but his snaps were explosive. His aggression, length, and athleticism jump off the screen. A modern hybrid linebacker who can rush the passer, drop into coverage, and erase mismatches, Campbell looks like he's built for Fangio's scheme. The question is whether he can crack the starting lineup next to Zach Bond, or if Jeremiah Trotter Jr. holds onto that spot. Saturday against Cleveland should bring more opportunities for Campbell to prove his versatility and push for a bigger role. Wide receiver depth is also a fascinating storyline. We know A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and Jahan Dotson are locked into the top 3 roles, but the fight for WR4 through WR6 is as competitive as any position group. Johnny Wilson responded well to the pressure against Cincinnati, using his massive 6 feet 6 inches frame to win contested catches. Anaya Smith showed his value as a dynamic returner and capped it with a touchdown reception. Both are young players drafted by Philly last year, and both flashed growth in Week 1. Darius Cooper, however, may have been the most impressive of the 3. The issue is that he wasn't a draft pick, and cutting him would almost certainly lead to another team claiming him. That could force the Eagles to keep 6 receivers, creating a ripple effect elsewhere on the roster. That ripple effect might hit tight end, where the Eagles gave guaranteed money to Harrison Bryant and Keelan Grandson. If 6 receivers make it, could one or even both of those tight ends be cut in favor of running a 2 tight end setup with Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra? It would mirror last year's approach, but also create depth questions if injuries hit. These are the types of tough decisions Philadelphia faces when trimming down to the initial 53. With so much young talent and several veterans added in the offseason, this roster is crowded, and Fangio's scheme demands the best fits, not just the biggest names. So as we head into Saturday's matchup with Cleveland, the questions are everywhere. Can Ringo bounce back and prove he belongs? Will Adoree Jackson find his form, or will Jacorian Bennett seize the opportunity? Can Ojulari or Uche separate in their race to become the third edge rusher? Will Brett Toth lock down left guard, or will the Eagles be forced to reshuffle the offensive line? And which wide receivers will ultimately secure those final roster spots? These are the battles that will define the preseason, and they will have major implications for how ready the Eagles are when the games start to count. What do you think, Eagles fans? Who has the most to prove heading into this second preseason game against Cleveland? The secondary continues to be one of the most intriguing position groups to watch because it isn't just about the battle at outside corner. The safety competition is wide open as well. Sidney Brown, a third-round pick in 2023, has made his case with his physical downhill style and fearlessness in run support. On the other hand, Andrew Mukuba, drafted this year in the second round, brings more fluidity in coverage and ball skills that Fangio's system often values. Both are aggressive, both love contact, but Mukuba might have the higher upside as a rangy playmaker, while Brown embodies the toughness Philadelphia has long loved in its safeties. It feels like a true two-man race, and Fangio has reinforced that belief by mixing both players heavily into first-team reps. The final preseason stretch will determine whether experience or upside carries more weight in the decision. Another name worth monitoring in the secondary is Eli Ricks. Undrafted in 2023 but once one of the top high school recruits in the nation, Ricks has always flashed potential. We saw it again in the opener, a nice pass breakup, the kind of anticipation you want, but also a dropped interception, a penalty, and a crucial third down conversion allowed. That inconsistency has been the story of his young career so far. The coaching staff still views him as a developmental piece, but in a crowded defensive backfield, his margin for error is slim. Unless he puts together a strong finish to preseason, he could find himself buried on the depth chart despite his natural length and instincts. The defensive front also features a rookie who has caught attention, Ty Robinson, the Vanilla Gorilla from Nebraska. He showed up with a sack against Cincinnati and looked explosive off the snap, showing why the Eagles believed in his upside. The concern, though, is his size at defensive tackle. At 290 pounds, he can get moved in the run game. Teams will test that when he's on the field, and for him to earn real snaps, he'll need to prove he can anchor better against power. Still, his speed and ability to penetrate make him a weapon in passing situations, and Fangio could carve out a situational role for him as early as this year. Turning to the quarterback room, Tanner McKee reminded everyone against Cincinnati why the Eagles are thrilled to have him as QB2. He carved up the Bengals' starting defense with poise, accuracy, and command that looked more like a season starter than a second-year backup. He doesn't need to prove anything more in the preseason, which means Saturday could be more about giving